there, Patreon supporters. Welcome back to my channel. It's Webisode 3 for today. We've got a lot to cover, including giving away that there painting. The little original painting. Part of the deal is if we could get to 50 subscribers this month, I would give away a small piece of art, and that's the one we're going to give away. So stay tuned. We're going to see who gets that piece of artwork, as well as do some other things. So thanks for tuning in, and let's get started. So a couple of really exciting things. As of right now, I just checked the Patreon page. There are currently 61 patrons, which is just mind-blowing for me. Thank you so much. With that many patrons, you know, it really helps pay the bills around here, and that is a huge help to me and an incredible help to my family. Thank you so much. It's super awesome. Now, like I said before, one of the things that I did this month was saying that if I could get past 50 subscribers to my Patreon, that I would give away this little piece of art. And I've randomly selected one person, and that person is Lindsay Garfield. So I'll get this sent out to you, Lindsay. Thank you so much for playing along. And next, what should we give away next? I'd love to hear from you guys what you'd like to have, if you'd like to have some more prints, or if you'd like to have another small painting giveaway. So next month I want to give away something else, and I have a good idea on how to do it. But what do you want? You know, let me know. I can make a drawing for you. I could get you another small painting that's similar to this one. We can send out prints galore. So let me know in the comments what you would like to ultimately win from me as, you know, a supporter. Hopefully we'll have enough stuff to everybody win something eventually. You know, it'll be a lot of fun to do. But please let me know what you think. So just downstairs from my studio is Arc Gallery, where every month they host a different national show. It's really great. They invite artists from all over the country to submit artwork to a different show. And right now they're doing a show called 48 Pillars, where everybody got 2 wood panels that are 12 by 48. And we're asked to interpret, you know, sort of a diptych for each piece. That's a really wonderful show. It's one of ARC's most popular shows, and the opening is this weekend, this Saturday night. So I'll be here for that. My studio will be open. If you're in the neighborhood, please come by, check out the show, and then come upstairs and say hello. If you're not in the neighborhood, then this is probably about as good as you get for the show. But this week we had I asked for some questions from some viewers, and I got some great ones. And one of the ones that I got that I think is going to be fun, especially since every one of these pieces, it has to do with 2 pieces, it sort of makes me think of pros and cons. And one of the questions I got was, what is one of the pros and cons of being a full-time artist? All right, pros and cons of being an artist. I guess there's kind of a rule for answering this question for myself, so I'm going to give you the rule, give you the lowdown. One, I'm going to try not to answer the pros in a way that's like too fluffy or too hippie-ish, because I think that can get kind of out of hand. There's lots and lots of pros to being an artist, and I want to give you good, solid, concrete things. There's probably also hundreds of things I could say, so I'm going to try and keep it brief. Cons, I'm not allowed to complain about my job, really. I'm not. I'm super fortunate to do what I do. I'm super fortunate to have people like you that support me. So I really don't want to have the cons seem like they are complaints. So I'm going to try and keep that in that kind of vein of, real challenges that really are something that I face all the time as an artist. So here we go. Okay, pros column. First up, and probably most foremost, is the easiest one to answer. I get to make art a lot. It's super fun. Sometimes it's very challenging, but it's an awesome thing to get to express myself and have other people enjoy it, have other people connect with it in a way that I hope that they would connect with it. It's also very exciting when they make up their own stories for my art, and I really get to hear how they interpret it, and they come up with some really interesting things that I had no idea how that affected them. So that's one of my favorite things, is to meet and talk to people, hear what they have to say about my art, and get to make that kind of really great art. So that's number one. Number two, I would say one of my favorite things is when I make a piece of art, I put it in a show or a gallery, and somebody I don't know walks in and connects with that piece of art. I may not even be there. They connect with that piece of art so much that they have to buy it. And they're a complete stranger. It's not my mom or a relative that I, sort of made buy some art so I could pay some bills or something like that. It's like a complete stranger. The first time that happened to me was about 9 years ago, and it was a rush then, and it's still an incredible rush today when it happens. It's just phenomenal. I never expect to sell anything. Now, that sometimes people think is a little bit negative, but really it's kind of a positive. It's one of those things I can't control, so I'd never really expect it. So if I go and be in a show, I'm happy to complete the work, and I'm happy to be in the show. If it sells or not, I'm happy either way. And when it does sell, it's like just sheer gratitude. It's just like one of the best feelings of all time. So that would probably be number two. Number three, I get to set my own schedule most of the time. I am an early riser, late sleeper, so I do get to work kind of when I want to. There are some caveats to that. I'm a full-time dad as well and a husband, so there's a lot of family time I got to put in. There's kid time. There's kid activity time where I got to take them to baseball practice or guitar lessons or something like that. So there's always something that sort of can take over my time, but for the most part, I get to figure out what days I'm going to be able to work and what times I'm going to be able to do that work. My art brain doesn't really turn on until 10:30 no matter what, so I usually am not making art before 10:30, and I'm a little bit older than I used to be, so I don't do the all-nighters very much anymore. The all-nighters, when I was 25, man, I could stay up all night and then go to work the next day and then stay up the next night. Now if I do that, it's because something's wrong. So I tend to work in the daytime because I really like the sunlight and how I can make color decisions based on the actual natural light rather than with a bunch of studio lights. And my eyes aren't so good anymore, so I like to use the sunlight. But setting my own schedule is a really fun one. Number four, I would probably say the people. I've met tons of amazing people. I've met really great artists. I've met really interesting and cool artists that maybe aren't as far along in their career as they should be yet, or they aren't super great yet, but they're gonna be one day. I've met lots of just really fun people to hang out with, and gallery owners that I've made relationships with, and collectors. I've made tons of great collector relationships. I value all of them as much as I can, and just do whatever cool thing I can to keep those relationships going. And number five, I think for me, I am fortunate enough to live in a pretty great art city. It's not New York, but San Francisco does still have a pretty great art scene, even though a lot of it's getting priced out right now. There's still a vibrant community here, and I volunteer quite a bit for one of my local nonprofits, and that really helps out a lot because I've not only met a lot of cool people, but I have just done a lot of really cool things, and that's really helped out my art career quite a bit. Just making that mad network that I didn't really know I was making a network. I just thought it was, making friends. So those are probably the five easiest ones to answer for pros. So let's get to the cons. All right, so that was the pros. Now let's move on to my favorite column to talk about the cons. Challenges, man. Being an artist is kind of not what people think it is. So I would say that's probably my first con, is I don't get to paint all the time. I wish I did, I wish I got to make art 40 hours a week, but that's just not the case. If you're going to be a full-time artist, you've got to learn a little bit of business skills. You've got to learn to promote your work. You've got to learn to meet with galleries and go over contracts. You've got to learn that maybe making paintings can't be your only income stream, which is really challenging. So maybe you're going to learn to make prints or learn to license out your artwork. You've got to come up with other ways to make some money. It's not just painting for a living, or start a Patreon. So stuff like that can be very challenging, especially to a lot of artists that don't really feel like they're good at the business side of things. This is sort of something they've been told a lot. You can creatively do those things, and I happen to know a guy, me, who teaches a workshop every year for Artspan here in the city on how to deal with galleries and how to do the business side of your art. There's also a lot of really great resources and books out there for just that. But that can be one of the things, you unfortunately don't get to make art all day long. Two, I would say, deadlines are very challenging sometimes, especially with me, with the health problems that I have. Sometimes I'll, answer a call for art and say, that's in June and it's January, I'm super into it. And then comes June and I've been in the hospital twice, or, something has gone on to where I can't make art in the way that I want to make it or in the time that I want to make it. So it becomes very challenging. Either I work really hard that last week to get a piece done, or I have unfortunately had to bail on one or two shows, and that's no fun. You don't love to tell the gallery, hey, I'm sorry, I just can't do it, especially when you told them you could. So one of the things I've learned is to say no a little bit more, especially early on. That way you give them enough respect to go and find somebody else to be in their show. So that's a tip for you guys if you work this way with freelancing or deadlines. If you feel like you may not be able to do it, just say no now. It'll really benefit you later, and they'll have a lot more respect for you when they come to ask you the next time to be in a show. Don't wait till the last minute to be like, I can't do it. Three, I've been a full-time artist now for 7 years. My bills, kind of come and go. My income kind of is up and down. The first year it was really, really ridiculous, and it started to kind of even out a little bit now. I'm in my 7th year, but it can still be very feast or famine. You don't get paid like a regular job where every 2 weeks you get paid no matter what. There's no salary. You have to go out and create that income from somewhere. And sometimes that's easy, like during the holidays, I sell my calendars, I do a lot of table shows, I do a lot of, events and things like that, a lot of gallery shows in the summertime. But sometimes, like in January, February, things can be kind of lean. So if you're not prepared for that or understand that that's how things work, it can be kind of awful sometimes. Not being able to pay your bills or pay grocery money or pay your rent. I'm also fortunate enough that I have my wife who has a job, and she can kind of help out sometimes, or she pays a lot of the rent sometimes. I can maybe chip in once in a while, but feast or famine is definitely a challenging thing on the cons list. I wish it was different. None of my clothes are clean. I have paint on everything. There's not an article of clothing I own that doesn't have paint or gloss medium on it somehow. That's just my life, I guess. But if I do have a piece of clothing that doesn't have paint on it, it's new. So, that can be a bad thing, right? I think one of the other things for me, I don't know how other artists live, but sort of going in line with feast or famine, I've never been rich. I've never had a ton of money. I don't own a house. I rent. I just, a couple years ago bought a car that was worth a shit. I think like I live in probably the most expensive city in the country. There's people all around in my neighborhood that own their houses. They're $2 million homes. It kind of can grate on you sometimes. You sort of like, they're like, oh, for summer we went to Paris, or we went to Mexico, or we went here and we did that. And I'm over here like, we had a picnic in the yard, So sometimes that can kind of grate on you a little bit, that you're not making a ton of money. So I think that's about it for my pros and cons list. I hope that answers the question. Hopefully some of that stuff is fun to chew on or think about from the perspective of being an artist. I think next web episode, we're going to do a day in the life of me, sort of all the things that I have to do, and see if that's interesting or not. Hopefully it is. And that's pretty much it for today. I would like to say thank you. We've got over 61 Patreon supporters. You guys are fantastic. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Like, one more thing I wanted to talk to you guys about that's super cool. This week or this month, I put out there that I'm going to be doing portraits, cartoonized portraits of everybody. And I opened it up to having people send me their pets. So if you are a Patreon supporter, even if you give $1, you can send me your picture and I will cartoonize you to the best of my ability. I'm not very good at it, but I'm trying and I'm having a lot of fun doing it. So hopefully I'm not offending anybody when I send them their rendition of themselves. That hopefully it sort of looks like them. I am learning through this process, so I'm excited to be drawing people, and I'd rather draw people that I know and care about than just sort of random people. So please keep sending those in to me. If you'd rather send your cat or your dog or your chinchilla or whatever, please send those to me. If you don't send me a picture, I will be forced to look up whatever your current Facebook picture is and probably draw that. So at least with this, you get a say in which picture you send to me, and hopefully, make it pretty good lighting and stuff so I can see all the things that I need to do to try and get you drawn correctly as a cartoon. So keep those coming, and I'll be doing that up until we get to 75 Patreon supporters. After that, we've got to find a new thing to do. And I have a bunch of great ideas. So keep those coming, and I will talk to you guys later on. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon. Bye.